After a brutal encounter with a new, seemingly unstoppable foe, Batman begins to experience a series of disturbing hallucinations and reality shifts, forcing him to question his own sanity and the very nature of his war on crime, as a chilling, ancient presence reveals itself within the fabric of Gotham itself. The rain lashed against the gargoyles of Wayne Tower, mirroring the storm raging within Bruce Wayne's mind. He had faced countless villains, endured unimaginable trauma, stared into the abyss more times than he could count. But this was different. It had started with a new case, a series of bizarre, seemingly impossible crimes plaguing Gotham. Victims were found in a state of catatonic terror, their minds shattered, their bodies untouched, whispering a single chilling phrase: the Requiem. Batman, ever the detective, had pursued the case with his usual relentless focus. But the deeper he delved, the more unsettling the mystery became. There were no patterns, no logical explanations, no clues beyond the victim's shared cryptic phrase. It was as if the crimes were being committed by nothing, by a void. Then he encountered it. Not a villain in the traditional sense, not a costume criminal or a superpowered metahuman. It was a presence, a feeling of overwhelming dread, of suffocating darkness that seemed to emanate from the very stones of Gotham itself. He first felt it in Crime Alley, the place where his life had been irrevocably altered. The alley, usually a grim reminder of his past, felt different, colder, more alive. He saw shadows that moved on their own, heard whispers that seemed to slither from the brick walls, felt a chilling presence watching him, judging him. He dismissed it as grief, as the lingering trauma of his parents' murder. But the presence followed him. He felt it in the Batcave, in the cold, sterile confines of his sanctuary. He saw flickers in his monitors, distortions in his equipment, heard whispers in the hum of the Bat computer. He started to question his own senses, his own sanity. Then the hallucinations began. He would see his parents, not as loving memories, but as grotesque, accusing figures, their faces contorted in agony, their voices whispering about his failure, about the endless cycle of violence he had perpetuated. He would see his rogues gallery not as criminals to be apprehended, but as distorted reflections of his own inner demons, their twisted forms mocking his efforts, his crusade, his very existence. He would see Gotham itself, not as a city to be protected, but as a living entity, a monstrous, sentient being that fed on fear and despair, a creature that had birthed him, shaped him, and now demanded its due. The line between reality and nightmare began to blur. He would find himself in places he didn't remember going, fighting enemies that weren't there, hearing voices that spoke of a darkness that predated Gotham, a darkness that had always been there, waiting, watching, whispering. He tried to fight it, to use his logic, his detective skills, his technology, to find an explanation, a solution. But there was no logic to be found, no clues to be followed, no enemy to be apprehended. The Requiem, he discovered, was not a person, not a thing, but a state of being, a point of convergence between reality and something else, something ancient, something malevolent, something that had always been lurking beneath the surface of Gotham, feeding on its darkness, its violence, its despair. Alfred, his faithful confidant, his surrogate father, noticed the change in him. He saw the growing darkness in Bruce's eyes, the haunted look on his face, the tremors that racked his body. He tried to help, to reason with him, but Bruce pushed him away, isolating himself further, convinced that he was the only one who could understand, the only one who could stop the Requiem. But Bruce was wrong. He was not stopping it. He was becoming it. The Requiem was not an external threat. It was an internal one. It was the culmination of his trauma, his guilt, his obsession, his own darkness, amplified and twisted by the ancient presence that lurked within Gotham. The final scene takes place in Crime Alley, the place where it all began. Bruce, now a broken, haunted figure, stands before the ghostly images of his parents, their accusing eyes burning into his soul. He is no longer Batman, the symbol of justice, the Dark Knight. He is a prisoner of his own mind, a victim of his own crusade. He raises his hands, not in defiance, but in surrender. He accepts his fate, his transformation, his descent into madness. He embraces the Requiem. "I am the night," he whispers, his voice a distorted echo of his former self. "I am the darkness. I am Gotham." And as the shadows consume him, as the whispers become a roar, as the line between reality and nightmare dissolves completely, we are left with a chilling realization. Batman is gone, and Gotham has claimed its son. He had become the very thing he swore to destroy. The cycle was complete. The Requiem had begun, and there was no one left to stop it. The city was his now, and he was the city's forever.